Craftsman tools and the changes through the years, of which there have been many. I wanted to do a little bit of a talk about that because I was inspired by some of the tools that we found in this here toolbox time capsule that I opened in a live stream the other night. This is literally a time capsule of a toolbox that it was closed and locked 7 years ago. And I forgot what was in it, and we opened it on camera and kind of discovered it together. So I want to talk about some of those tools because some of the tools that was in this time box or toolbox time capsule were made in America, made in USA, Craftsman screwdrivers, which they don't make in America anymore. So I thought it was very interesting to find these pristine, almost brand new screwdrivers. So we're going to show you those screwdrivers here, as well as some ratchet wrenches that I found in here, and compare those to some other ratchet wrenches that were made at a different time. And it's just so interesting to see the differences through the years, being that Craftsman made a name for themselves as being an American brand. Now, another thing that I found in there, and this is kind of interesting, and this just kind of shows you how much things have changed, that this, I've had several of these. This is a screwdriver keychain that says Craftsman and the part number on one side. And on the other side, it says, the greatest name in tools since 1927, made in USA. Oh, how things have changed. So we're going to set these tools from this time capsule out on the bench here and let you see them up close. And we're going to contrast that with some of the tools that are on the shelf currently at Lowe's. So before we get into it, if you like this type of content, just a regular average Joe, small channel, bought his own stuff, used his own stuff, be sure to like and subscribe. We do a lot of EDC stuff here, but being as I was a heavy equipment mechanic, we do occasionally talk about bigger tools. So let's get into it. Here are all the tools that were in the toolbox time capsule. I don't know the rhyme or reason why these particular tools were put in there. It must have been some very particular application, because if I were going to assemble a more comprehensive toolkit, I would definitely include probably different sizes of these, some crescent wrenches, maybe some vice grips, you know, just other stuff. So not too sure what's going on here, but this is what was in there. So we're going to go ahead and look at this, and we're not going to talk too much about these Pittsburgh pliers here, or this kind of, you know, cheap pry bar, probably bought at AutoZone, I think. I probably just put that in there because I didn't want to pack my more expensive Snap-on version of the same thing, which is a really nice pry bar. I've had that for probably 20 years. But let's take a look at some of these screwdrivers here, because these are classic Craftsman screwdrivers made in USA there. You can see that. WF, I think that's when they were actually made by Western Forge. 1/4. So I can show you the rest of these here, and you can see how pristine these are. This is a really long 3/16 flathead screwdriver, and then another 3/16 flathead screwdriver. You can see the condition these are in. I mean, compared to some of these ones that have been, you know, sitting out on my shop just being used, I mean, this is literally on my pegboard here. So these have been well loved, well used. Compared to these, I mean, this is quite the find to find this pristine, a brand new USA made screwdrivers. So, and we have a shorter 3/16, and then we have this 1/4 inch guy here, flathead, and then for whatever reason we have one longer Phillips. See that P2, made in USA? Look how nice that looks. Then, and even though they're newish, they're starting to have that breakdown smell of the material that they use to make those Craftsman screwdriver handles. But very, very nice complete set of 2 stubbies here. I love these stubbies. I use these so much when I was a mechanic. And then we have a tiny little skinny flathead and another tiny little skinny flathead with a pocket clip. Put that in your pocket or your pocket protector if you happen to be a nerd. Here is that screwdriver keychain. I've had probably 3 or 4 of these through the years, but this one is really nice and pristine. Greatest name in tools since 1927. And then here we have these ratchet wrenches. Now these I found to be interesting. I probably put this kit together, toolbox, in 2017, but I believe I bought these screwdrivers around 2014 because it was after I bought my first house, I remember, and was refitting my shop, my garage, and getting back into working on stuff after several years of apartment life. These ratchet wrenches are kind of interesting because these do not appear to be made in the USA. Can you hear that? So we have a 14 millimeter, 13 millimeter, 12 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 8, and 6. Now here I will compare this. Here I have a different style Craftsman ratchet wrench. You can see this one's got offset head, and this one switches the gearing back and forth. See that? Now listen to this. See that? USA right there? You hear those gears? Now compare that to the non-American made gear sound. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but I can. I do happen to be a musician, so I can pick up on that stuff, but there's a definitely change, a different kind of pitch to the gearing. Now this does have the ability to switch back and forth, whereas the other one, being that they're more straight than offset, just have to go back and forth. But notice how one says USA and one does not. So I figured that would be an interesting contrast. Now I'm going to show you some footage of these particular screwdrivers that we're going to check out at Lowe's, a package right now. I went to Lowe's today and took this footage of the same style screwdrivers, and I remember I bought them in a pack just like this. And I remember buying this same pack when I was, I don't know, 2002, and then the same pack in like 2014, as I just stated earlier. And the difference between then and now is clearly they are not made in the USA. They're made in Taiwan. Now we can look at the same style of wrenches here, current day, at Lowe's. And you can see that they too are no longer made in the USA. They're made in Taiwan. And this is all current state. Now, as I stated earlier, perhaps some of the biggest changes we've seen in Craftsman and been in the last 5 or so years, of course the biggest change probably to ever happen to Craftsman is that they were bought by Stanley Black & Decker, and then several business decisions were made to shift production offshore, as they call it. I want to show you an example of probably one of my most used Craftsman tools, and this is was not in the toolbox time capsule because this is something that has seen steady use throughout the last 2 decades, and that is my 1/2-inch breaker bar. I literally had to use this just a couple of weeks ago to take the Jeep tires off or wheels off my Jeep because it was the only way I could do it. And this 1/2-inch breaker bar has served me well through the years. I can't tell you how many times, how much I've had to use this as a professional in a shop on diesel engines, on diesel trucks, heavy trucks. But I wanted to show you this particular one here, as this one says USA right there. You see that? Then we have, of course, the part number. In great shape for being 2 decades old. I haven't done much to maintain this at all, other than just using it. Now let's check out one currently on the shelf right now at Lowe's. Again, 2024. Things have changed a lot since Stanley Black & Decker have taken over, and you know, I'll leave it up to you whether you think there's a quality change. I mean, obviously quality in steel has changed through the decades. I mean, compared to tools of, say, maybe the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, there's an argument to be made that even the USA made ones of just 20 years ago might be lower quality than those. I wouldn't really know. I've only been doing this for 20-something years. I don't work professionally as a mechanic anymore, but I do a lot of stuff on the homestead, around the shop, a lot of shop projects, a lot of home repairs. And I do use, tools all the time in the laboratory, although not this big a tool. Now, one of the things I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to go through my whole Craftsman wrench set. I have here a set of Craftsman wrenches from circa the 90s. You can see forged in USA right there. Now I want to show you something kind of interesting. Do you see how there's a ground off number? Those were issued tools in the United States Air Force. These were used in an official diesel shop on an Air Force base in Florida by myself, yours truly. And what happened is at one point they phased out all their Craftsman and some of the Snap-on stuff that they had. And basically Mac Tools got a government contract and they got all super sweet, fully decked out, foamed padded toolboxes with laser etched numbers attached to them. Where every tool had a number, we used to have to do it with like a tool etcher manually and it looked all janky. But then Mac provided laser etched tools. So here's another example. I bought these from what's called the DRMO. Those former military people probably know that. I was in the Air Force. And so DRMO is basically a place where you can buy used military gears and tools and equipment. And so these were actual wrenches that I used in the Air Force and bought from the DRMO. We're going to come back and do a video about that here soon and continue to talk about Craftsman tools through the years. Because I hope you enjoyed that look at some Craftsman tools and some Craftsman tool talk. We'll probably come back and talk about Craftsman some more, as I've used them a lot through the years and have a lot of Craftsman stuff. So with that, take care.